Welcome to the For the Youth podcast. My name is Zach. I am the youth pastor to Lane and Josiah and Joey. How y'all doing today, guys? Y'all doing good?
Yeah.
Are you awake?
It's a great day.
It's a great day. I hope you guys know how much we love you and we love the podcast because these jokers got here at 7 a.m. this morning. And it's finally 7:45. What time? It's 7:50 because somebody wasn't super prepared. And now we're ready to go with the 7th episode of the For the Youth podcast. Today we're talking pro tips for youth camps and conferences. It took us a while to figure out that title. But I want to just say a special thank you to Mr. Joey, the man in the chair behind there, pushing the buttons. We were actually telling you, Joey's only got like one button that he needs to push all episode long.
I got 2.
You got 2 episodes you need to push?
I have to press 1 and 3.
1 and 3. They're supposed to be in 1 and 2. Oh man, what are we doing, man? I'm sorry that we made that so difficult for you.
No,
It's easier.
Yeah.
It counts for the finger gaps.
The finger gap?
Yeah. 1 and 3.
So this is Joey's first time on the episode. Lane's third time on the episode.
Yeah, third.
Well, okay, yeah, that's another conversation
He's
for
a
another time.
veteran.
So, and then Josiah's been on an episode, but we had to re-record it because we're not good at technical stuff. And then that's the same thing. We should just go ahead and tell people. That's the same thing that happened last month. Lane and I recorded an episode. And if you're watching her on YouTube or podcast and you're like, what happened? Where did you guys go? Why have we not had an episode in two and a half months? Well, we did have an episode. But technical difficulties, they came for us. So today we're talking with these yahoos about how to get the most out of a D-Now. Did you guys ever go to another church where they called it something else?
I went to one, they called it My Life.
My Life. Oh yeah. I know those guys.
Yeah.
Those are our friends at Anthem down the road. Those guys are awesome. Was Philip there when you went to that one?
Yeah, it was this year. Yeah.
Philip's the guy. What else? Have you heard it like a weekend retreat?
Yeah,
winter camp.
Last year was my first year, so it was just youth weekend.
Yeah, just youth weekend. We go for like the most like simple concept of naming a thing.
Yeah.
What is it?
You even leave out the
Yeah.
vowels,
We even
yeah.
so we save characters, when we're sending telegrams. Save us a lot of money on postage. Getting rid of the vowels. But yeah, so the idea is, if you are watching and you're a student, middle schooler or high schooler, maybe you go to a church. If you don't, you should. But when we go to these camps, weekend retreats, D-Nows, fall retreats, whatever you want to call them, weekends or summer youth events, how do we get the most out of them? How do we get the most out of an event like this? And not in like a selfish, super consumer way, but like how do you prepare yourself emotionally, spiritually, physically, all that kind of good stuff. And so we're going to get into it. I got some questions for these guys because on a episode called Pro Tips for Youth Camps and Conferences, we brought in the pros. We brought in some of the OGs. And some of you guys grew up in church. You've been to like 8 of these or 9 of these and things like this. And some of you guys, didn't grow up in church. And so, you can really remember the first time you came to one of these, what it was like, first impressions and things like that. So let's just kind of start off with an icebreaker. And I want to show you guys some things. You guys have iPhones? I can airdrop this to you.
I left mine.
And it was fine. Lane's like, I'm trying to be responsible and
Unplugged
mature.
in.
Yeah. Present in the moment. I want to show you guys a few pictures of something that is for youth weekend next weekend. So you guys know, but our audience might not know. We're recording this. What day is today? It's February 19th, and we've got an episode that we're recording right now, but next weekend, like less than a week from today, 5 days, 6 days, is our big youth retreat. It's like our youth ministry Super Bowl. So I'm going to send you guys just like a tiny little sneak peek of something that is being built for youth weekend. In fact, I'm going to like crop the mess out of it so that you don't really see too much. And I'm going to send this picture up on the screen in post. We'll fix it in post. And I just want you guys to tell me what you think it is. Joe, do you have your phone? Huh? All right. I just don't see you on AirDrop. There you are. Joey, Josiah, and Lane. You can look on Josiah's phone. You see it?
Yeah. I
Okay.
don't know what I'm looking at. But
You don't know what you're looking at?
Oh,
It just looks like a big chair.
it does.
A big chair.
It does look like a big chair.
Oh, and there's like a palm tree right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's at the beach. Okay. It's not at the beach. It's not at the beach. I was like, it could look like it's at the beach. Joey, what are your impressions?
I don't see it.
You don't see it? It's not coming through?
I don't see it.
What am I doing here? I don't know how to... Guys, we're not fixing this in post. This is like a awkward moment where the tech's not working.
I'll toss it to Joey. I'll toss my phone to Joey.
You can... Well, you're
I
going
actually
to
haven't
toss?
shown-
What is that?
Yeah.
A basketball hoop or something?
What? Joey.
Basketball hoop? You said giant chair, basketball hoop. What are you saying, Lane?
Giant chair, like a platform.
Dunk tank.
A dunk tank?
Oh.
If it is a dunk tank, and if you're right, would you be willing to sit in the chair for the dunk tank?
I'd want to see you there.
Definitely a dunk.
Oh, I'm sure you would, but that's not what we're doing here right now. So I shouldn't really mess with Joey. He could just turn this episode off right now.
Yeah.
We're so glad you're here, Joey. So you said giant chair, kind of platform.
I'm on board with dunk tank now.
Dunk tank,
A
and
little bit.
you said dunk tank, but you said basketball hoop before that too.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we'll see if any of you guys are right. If you are watching right now, this is going to go live before youth weekend. You can tell us what you think it is. Throw it in the comments. But I want to get into some serious questions, and then we should probably post on our Instagram after youth weekend. Hey, here's what it actually was. Question number 1 for today's episode, pro tips for youth camps and conferences, is this: how do you get the most out of a D now? Weekend retreat, insert summer camp, whatever. But how do you get the most? We're starting wide, starting pretty generic, vague. You can take that any direction you want, and we'll kind of narrow things down as we get closer.
Okay. I think that the preparation is the biggest thing for getting the most out of it, because there's physical preparation, making sure that you've gotten your schedule cleared, you're ready to focus on the retreat itself, but also preparing your mind and prayer-wise too, because I can remember times that I've gone into it either thinking I was too cool for certain activities or too cool to be to really be in worship or something like that, but also times that I've gone into it and I just have no idea what I'm looking for. The first night I find myself praying God, what do I even need answers from right now? What am I I haven't prayed in a while, and
Right.
I just go into it completely just I didn't put any thought into it. So I think preparation.
You didn't put
is a
any
big
thought
thing.
before you got there.
Yeah.
And so when you got there, you were like,
I'm what,
shoot,
what
okay,
am I
God, what do we
looking
need
for?
today?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I'm tracking with you. Have any of you guys had that experience? When you get there, you're like, oh, we're here. Okay. I hope I learned some things.
I signed up super late, so I didn't
really?
really have time.
I think I remember
to
that.
prepare anyways.
Did we open registration late for you, Joey?
Yeah,
We did.
clutched up. Yeah,
we
exactly.
don't actually do that. I didn't just admit to that. We don't do that. We're not doing that this year. I'll tell you that right now. We're not. Okay? Joey, were you a Christian when you came last time already?
I mean, I believed. I just didn't really know what I believed.
Okay. Can I say something without hurting your feelings?
Yeah.
I didn't know you that well. I bet we opened registration late and made an exception for Joey because we're like, Joey, what if Joey's not a Christian? What if we keep him from learning about Jesus because we don't let him register?
It's a great reason.
Yeah, it is. It is. It makes it really hard for guys like us who are trying to get things organized.
Yeah.
And then people are like, can you add me to the weekend? I'm not trying to make you feel bad. It's just, it's tricky. Joe, anything you wanted to chime in
Yeah. I
for
think,
how to prepare?
yeah. For something like we do where there's multiple churches coming, I think what's huge is kind of going into it, forgetting everybody you know.
Yeah.
When I come in, Zach, you're not my youth pastor. I don't have any
Hurts
attachment
my feelings. None?
to you. It just helps to kind of
I have some attachment to you guys. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
it
No, I get
kind
what
of
you're
helps
saying.
to
I
kind
get
of
what you're
clear
saying.
your mind, and it just gives you this freedom to kind of, do your thing and not have so many eyes on you, it feels like. So kind of just going in and just super open-minded, kind of I'm ready for just soak things in.
I'm glad you said that because you pointed out our event, Youth Weekend, has got a bunch of churches that come to it, and we worship together. It's at our church, but it's not like a West Side thing. It's not a movement youth thing. And we love sharing that experience with people from all kinds of different church backgrounds, and we've had some Methodists come, even though we're a Baptist church. Ooh, we've had some people who are, part of non-denominational churches, other Baptist churches, and all kinds of people in different, realms of that spectrum, so to speak. But I remember one time I got down at the front of the room for worship, and I was just there to worship. I didn't have like a job at the moment. And I was like looking for some of our kids, like Westside kids, because I'm like, I want to worship with you guys. I want to stand next to you. And I'm like, I don't know which ones are Westside kids and which ones are not. Which ones are a part of Movement Youth and which ones are here from other churches. But you point that out because, our youth weekend does have multiple churches at it, but our camp does not.
Right.
And we can even get into, this might be like, pro tips 201 for youth camps and conferences, but like, do you prepare differently for a camp versus a youth weekend event? We might have to circle back to that because I think there's other questions we have to answer first. But one thing that I kind of parsed this down into when I was talking to you guys about this yesterday was I said, let's kind of think about this emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I think you even just said that, Lane. Like, what are some ways that you prepare in those unique and different ways? So anybody want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go. I think physically, get a lot of sleep the week before. Just kind of like resting up, getting prepared. I know some of us like mid-season, so it's kind of hard. But doing that physically, spiritually, a lot of things just like praying for God. I think one of the things that I've been praying for this year is just revival because I look forward to Youth Weekend. And just praying for a revival, and pray without doubt, and so just like, God, please move. That's how, for me, spiritually, you get prepared for it, just like really wanting that,
That's a great idea, and saying, hey, like I got some things I want to see happen. God, revival is one of them. I was with not a life group. I was with a team on Wednesday nights, a small group. It's like a talk back group at the end of our sermons, and somebody mentioned the word revival, and I loved it because this one guy was like, hey, y'all might give me a hard time for this, but like, what is revival? And I was like, oh, I'm so glad you asked, because it's not a dumb question. And this guy hadn't really grown up in church, so he just hadn't heard that word used a lot. How would you guys describe revival, if that's something that we're praying for at events like this?
I think I saw somebody talking about their own camp. But I think I would also define revival in a similar way, as they were saying, like, they felt like the gap between like heaven and earth was a little bit thinner. Like, you were just a little bit closer to God in the moment. So I know there's also this whole thing with, there's a revival at a church at a different university somewhere in Kentucky.
Yeah, Asbury University.
Yeah. So I was reading that, and they called it a revival, and that's actually, I've been like wondering about definition-wise.
Like, what is that?
Yeah. I think I'd probably just define it as, I think, a moment when people are a little bit closer to God, whether that's through prayer or like that feeling you get. But I think that revival is like closer proximity spiritually to God. And then with that comes, I think, a little bit more change and movement and like more awareness of things that work on or whatever. Yeah.
Well, remember Jordan's episode where he was talking about deconstruction and deconstructing deconstruction? He used this word nebulous, and ever since he used that word, I'm like, I like that word, nebulous. And he was just saying, like, some things are hard to understand. They've got a lot of meanings. And I think the word nebulous has the word revival is kind of a nebulous word. It has a lot of different meanings, and people use it in different ways, and they mean different things when they use it. So I think there's such a thing as like a personal revival where, like, hey, God is doing some kind of work in me, and I am really experiencing that proximity with him. I'm getting things right in my life. I'm deepening my faith, and maybe it's possible that like a person at a camp or a conference or at church on a Sunday morning can experience personal revival, even if the rest of the group does not. Even if it's not a corporate revival, group, revival. And then sometimes people are like, oh we're having revival tonight. We're having all out. It was just straight revival at church tonight, and it's like, well, but what do you mean by that? Because some people mean like, I could just really feel the Spirit. It was just a really great night. And I think in that sense, we maybe overuse the word sometimes. But then you look at things like we're calling it the Asbury Revival in Kentucky. And I mean, that's been going on for like 11 days, 12 days, something like that now. Like, people have not stopped worshiping day or night, and they're coming from all over the country. And I mean, I think that's closer to our concept of revival than worship was just really fire tonight, and I'm not trying to be mean or negative, but if we have time, let's come back to that concept of a revival, because I think that's huge. And when we gather for worship this Friday night with all these churches and we're having a weekend, we're not just saying we just want to have a worship concert. We're not just saying, hey, we want to play some games or stay over at people's houses because we stay in host homes. We're saying like there's a purpose for this. So let's come back to that. What are some other ways that you guys prepare physically? Because you said get good sleep. Anything else? I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we cram like I think it's 44 hours or 42 hours from start to finish at youth weekend. We've got like outdoor games, worship services, breakout sessions, three like full worship services.
Are you counting small groups when we get?
Yeah, and then small groups. Yeah, it's like start to finish.
Yeah,
like
sometimes those take
the
long time.
Yeah, that's why we tell people like, hey, when it's midnight, go to bed.
You don't really have time to be tired.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. Like, it didn't really set in until after, and then I just crashed.
That's good. I mean, I don't mind you crashing on Sunday afternoon. I crashed on Sunday afternoon, but it's like.
See, no, I crash during the event sometimes. Like at camp one
that's
year,
what you don't want.
Camp one year, I remember like falling asleep in a cabin, and a different group was meeting, and I woke up in the middle of like a meeting that was not mine, and I was like, I just kind of like walked out. So I think sleep I prepare for a lot before also.
Yeah. I could see like everyone's talking about Jesus, and then Lane just like, what are you guys doing? She doesn't even go here.
Like a bunch of middle school girls. Like what the heck are you doing?
Yeah. Like I've been here for the last 7 hours. I think we program like 7 hours a night of sleep at youth weekend. We're like, hey, we don't want to go to bed at 3 a.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. So on paper, if you're hearing me, you should get 7 hours of sleep. But then people are like, I need to stay up till 6 a.m. and talk about my feelings. I think that's girl houses.
Oh, yeah.
And then guy houses. Maybe guys do too. Do guys do that? No.
It was like a Animal House.
Animal House?
Dude, it was bad. And there was a playground outside.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Whose house were you at?
Don't add them right now.
No,
Don't
actually
throw them under the bus. There's a playground. What kind of play? Are you guys playing like a children's playground
Yeah.
in the middle of the night?
They had like this spinny thing.
A merry-go-round?
No, it was like you'd go into it, and then you just spin as fast as you can.
That sounds dangerous. Don't do that.
Okay.
Go to sleep.
That's
people.
the younger guys.
Yeah.
We older guys.
Joey's like a whole year younger than you. Josiah's like, I would never.
It's definitely no different either.
I am so mature. You know?
I mean, I feel like if we were posed with the situation, we'd probably be like,
yeah. They're just mad that
What's
you
up?
didn't have
What's
a spinny merry-go-round thing
Yeah.
that you go
Kinda.
inside. Okay, so it's important to get a lot of sleep. It's important to sleep at youth weekend. But what are some ways that you prepare, like emotionally and or spiritually? I think like those two are connected. They're different. But what are some ways you prepare emotionally or spiritually?
get ready to cry.
Yeah.
Cry.
I was going to say, I think emotionally I prepare myself to be more vulnerable than normal, especially for youth weekend, because you have one full day and 2 nights to, like you said, like get as close to revival as you can. I mean, you don't want to force anything, but like I don't want to go into it like on my normal, just like closed off, get stuff done, like that kind of stuff. Like you want to go into it kind of ready. Like you're in a rare occasion where once a year you're for a whole weekend with either people who believe the same thing as you or want to. So like,
or they're kind of seeking. They're
or
there
they're seeking.
because they're like,
so you want to be in the position
I'm
to like
interested.
accept as much as you can, as fast as you can, as openly as you can.
Yeah.
But
What are some things? I know, Joe, you said like maybe get ready to cry. What are some reasons that you think some people might get really emotional at a youth camp? You know, D Now type weekend, fall retreat, any of those things.
I mean, it could be. I mean, there's a lot. For me, one of my buddies came to Christ a couple years ago. That's. I mean, that's huge.
You talking about Bryce?
Um,
Or somebody, or another
yeah,
friend.
yeah, another guy. Yeah, Bryce
Awesome.
got baptized. That was huge.
Yeah.
But getting saved, your friends getting saved, that's amazing to watch. Feeling convicted too. Sometimes it's just overwhelming, and you're like you just fall on your knees and say, God, like I need you.
I've sinned. I need your forgiveness. Yeah.
Things like that, and this being my last, this is kind of off track, but this being my last one,
'Cause you're
emotionally,
senior, yeah.
emotionally, I'm like, let's get it done. I want to do this as best as I can.
Yeah.
So
Leave it all on the court.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of said something earlier about like there's an age where you're like, I'm too cool to hang out. I'm too cool to play these silly games. I feel like as a sixth grader, our youth group is 6th through 12th grade. Some break them up middle school and high school. But yeah, as like a 6th, 7th grader, you're like, I want to play all of the games. like you got war paint on your face. I feel like, you guys tell me what you think. I feel like it's like 8th, 9th, maybe a little bit 10th grade, but like 8th and 9th, that's when they're like,
Yeah.
I'm too cool.
Because they're trying to like find themselves.
Yeah, which is normal. If
Just
you're an 8th or
fit
9th
in,
grader,
yeah.
we're not like making fun of you. We all did the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're trying to find yourself.
Trying to get in with the
Yeah.
right, like, because you're going into high school, you're trying to get in with
Yeah.
the cool people.
Yeah. And then by the time you're a junior or senior, you're over all that, and you're back to the exact same thing
Yeah.
as a 6th or 7th
Oh,
grader. You're
yeah.
just bigger. You're
Yeah.
like, I want to play all the games,
Yeah.
You're more dangerous.
You're just a bigger child.
Yeah.
And then that's why you look around. If you are coming to our event this weekend, or if you go to another camp, look around. The most hyped people usually are like the college age small group leaders, because they're just like over themselves. And they're like, no offense, but they're not like there to impress a 14-year-old. I mean, like they're
hope not.
like 10-year-olds. Exactly. Like, well, they're
Yeah.
not there to impress. They're not there
Right.
being
they have
focused on
nothing
what
to
a 14-year-old
prove.
thinks of them. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a better way to put it. They have nothing to prove.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love how you said that. Like preparing yourself to be a little bit more emotionally vulnerable. That's a great way to put that. I think I want to like zero in on the spiritual aspect. I mean, because it's a spiritual
Yeah.
weekend. What are some things that you guys pray for? Like specifically, what are some things that people could pray for as they're getting ready for an event, a focused time with God?
I think one, like I had said, like the vulnerability thing, that's a big thing that you can also be praying for, that you're like spiritually vulnerable. Like there's one verse, and I obviously, of course I can't remember it, but it was talking about like God revealed to me like the parts, it was the places that basically like your faults that you wouldn't notice yourself, like that kind of stuff. That's one thing that I know like I'll be
Like
praying
blind
for.
spots is maybe you could say that. Yeah, like God, point out some blind spots in my life where I'm not
Yeah.
honoring you.
But also like with my girl, like the group of girls that meets after Wednesday night, that like team time group, we have a group chat, and we had like an accountability group chat. And what we started doing was like keeping a list of each girl and what they had been asking to be prayed for recently. So even stuff that you might
that's
not
good.
notice, but you're talking about all the time, then we've pointed it out to each other. So
Yeah.
now like we have a concrete list that like I can go and look at what I'm praying for my friends for, and what I'm praying like for myself that I might not realize I'm talking about every week.
Yeah, that's big. Well, and I think a lot of times I have like kind of an evangelistic, like outsiders bend to my personality. I think that's kind of how God's wired me. But it's important for me to go into events like that, saying, okay, God, what do you want to teach me? And you guys are all like really involved in our ministry on leadership teams and things like that. You serve at our church on Sundays. So I think at some level you might kind of struggle with that. Like, okay, God, I hope that you save a lot of people. And we hope that happens too. We're going to have a speaker present the gospel as clearly as possible. And we're praying that people accept Jesus. We're praying that people get baptized and give their lives to the Lord. But it's really easy to say, God, I want you to serve other people, but forget, okay, God, what do you want to teach me? This is my 7th one. I'm a senior or I'm a junior. God, what do you want to reveal to me? And not go into it unintentionally thinking, oh, this is for other people. No, this is for us. Yeah. Even if you are bringing friends who don't know Jesus and you're excited, you're like, are they going to accept Jesus?
Yeah.
You guys, all right, don't do this. I don't want to like create like a cynical attitude, but when the preacher's giving an invitation, have you guys ever had a moment where like you brought a friend with you
and you kind of look at them like side eye, like, are you gonna get up?
If that's you, if you're not a church person, I don't want you to feel weird or uncomfortable. But yeah, if you got somebody who's coming with you and you're like, I'm pretty sure they don't know Jesus, and then the pastor's like, all right, raise your hand if you want to accept Jesus, and you're just like, are they raising their hand? Or you look down there to see like, are their hands on their lap or what's going on here? I don't want to make anybody feel weird about that. But like when you're praying for somebody, you really like, I've met Jesus. I've experienced the love and
Mhm.
forgiveness that he has. I really want that for you too. Don't do that. Heads bowed and eyes closed means
Yeah.
heads bowed and eyes closed, guys. Okay, come
Mhm.
on. I had some other questions here. I don't want us to, get too ADD like me. But what are just like your favorite parts, or the best parts in your opinion
Mhm.
of summer camps, youth weekends, all the above?
Oh, it's really hard because I just thought of one and then I kept adding and now I have a lot. But
That's all right. You're like
Bottom one
yeah.
flat out. Worship.
Worship.
Yeah.
100%.
People say that all the time. What about you, Joey?
100%.
Small groups.
Small groups.
I like the small groups. It
Yeah.
was more of like a close intent. Like
Yeah.
when we went back with our leaders and just talked about different passages and things like that.
Mhm.
For you, is it the things that you're talking about, like the curriculum or the content, or is it like, no, it's just me with
It's the things and people I'm with. It's just like a combination.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. And I had Bryson. So,
Oh, you had Bryson Holt.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
yeah.
Mhm.
The goat of small group leaders.
I think we had
Um,
talked about like girls' houses, how it's like I gotta stay up till 6 a.m. talking about my feelings and that kind of stuff. That is one of my favorite parts. Is just like the car ride to the house and then the
Yeah.
time there. Last year I had Ellen and Sophia. I was in Ellen's house and Sophia was our leader, and that was like we had conversations about stuff that I definitely would not have been comfortable having conversations about just like in my church in that like quick 30 minutes after the sermon. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like
Oh yeah.
you are like in a house, you have the entire night to talk with people.
Yeah.
And like we said, you're already a little bit more vulnerable because you're spending time with God. So I think those conversations are really unique.
Yeah. You kind of like those walls come down, and you're saying like, okay, guys, I trust you. God's been working on me, and the pastor's talking about
Yeah.
being obedient to what God's revealing. I want to be obedient. Can I
Mhm.
bounce some of this off of you? Yeah, absolutely. Joe, you look like you're thinking about something. You look like you're.
I was just.
Are you falling asleep? It is pretty early.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm awake. It's just like the stories I hear about girls' houses.
They
during
just make you
trips,
go, I'm so glad I'm not a girl. And I'm
It's-
joking.
It's not like, it's not even that they just stay up all the time, but for some reason, girls are just really good at having these conversations.
Preach.
And I have two sisters. Okay, so I mean I know and I've heard it. They go back to the house and like we were all crying and we were just having this really emotional like spiritual time, and I'm like, dude, us
Mhm.
guys are like, they ask a question and we all just kind of sit there and look at each
Yeah.
other. You're like,
Yeah.
you know,
Real talk. I think there is a bit of a gap. You're really good friends with Bryce. Me and Bryce talked
Yeah.
about this a while ago. There's a bit of a gap, I think, with guys, with men in the church, because I think partly this is just how God's wired us. We are a little bit less vulnerable with our emotions and trusting, and we don't like to express ourselves as much. But I think there's something even deeper than that, in that I think a lot of guys don't feel worthy. I think a lot of guys don't feel like they're being real or they're being authentic when they share those things. They're going, oh man, these guys, they know what I struggle with. They know that I'm not perfect. They go to school with me. They hear the things that I say. So they're like, I don't want to be fake. And we end up like keeping all of the things that God is saying to us close to our chest, not sharing those with others, not being obedient to, follow through with what God is revealing to us. And I think that's a big mistake. And I think the biggest thing that's so sad about that is like, it's not just us we're hurting. Like there is a group that we have some responsibility to lead that is missing out because of that.
yeah.
And God's called so many of our guys to lead, and we're just saying, no, I just wanna, keep that close to me. I don't know. Do you guys, is that just me, or are you saying like, no, I kind of see that a little bit sometimes?
No, yeah, I mean I for sure see it. I try to, that's what's so great about having people like Bryce. It's just like whenever we're in a room together, I feel like the room is just re-energized.
Yeah.
And then all the other guys start to kind of chime in. And one thing I've noticed, and this senior group has grown a lot, like on Wednesdays, small groups afterwards, it's grown a lot in the past year.
Yeah.
And so I really look forward to youth weekend because the conversations we have in those rooms, I mean, we're late every time. We're always talking for a long time. So I look forward to that. I feel like we kind of have a special group, but I definitely see guys kind of just like holding things in. Maybe they just don't know how we're going to treat them or,
But it's like as soon as one other person is vulnerable, then
It's a chain reaction.
It's a chain reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, not like instant all the time, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this: what's like, not to like prompt you to share something embarrassing or something that you're not proud of, but is there like a biggest mistake or biggest regret, biggest missed opportunity that you can think of coming to events like this?
I have one that I wouldn't say is a regret as much because, looking back on it, I've learned from it, stuff like that. But I remember a point in my life where after I got saved, so after I got like baptized and everything, and I think it was probably camp after that, I felt like I could not like go to the altar or anything because I was already saved. Like I felt like revival was reserved for a one point in your life when things change. And I remember I brought it up to a friend recently and they're like, no, like what?
Yeah, don't.
Like that's
no.
weird.
Who told you that?
And of course, like I know that's not the case anymore, but I remember being like embarrassed, but it was weird because I had done it before, but I was embarrassed to do it again. Like I was embarrassed to have something that I had to work on every year. Yeah. So I think that's something that I've worked on is like normalizing the idea that every year I'm going to have things to work on and they're going to feel almost the same magnitude, even though I'm already saved. Like even then, like then God's working on me as like in a different way than before I was saved. So it's normal for me to have something that I have to like bring to God every year.
Yeah.
Something
using that word saved, like in Romans 10, it says, whosoever would call on the name of the Lord will be saved.
Yeah.
It's talking about being like having your sins forgiven. And that is like a one-time thing. And as a youth pastor, there's a lot of times when I see somebody come forward and it's not that they're just coming forward, but they say, hey, I got saved. No, I got saved this time. No, I got saved this time. And it's like, hey, I think there just may be a misunderstanding here of what salvation is. You probably don't need to get saved over and over again. Maybe God is just drawing an area of your life to your attention and saying, you've got some work to do in this area. You need to grow. You need to develop in your faith in this area. And I think it's just an opportunity to teach there. But I also see what you're saying when you say, man, if I go forward, everybody's going to think, wait, I thought she got saved last year. And the reality is nobody's thinking, I thought she got saved last year. And if they were, like, who cares? It's like, that is a moment between us and God. But in middle school and high school, we're at our most vulnerable. We're at our most, like you said earlier, we're figuring out who we are. And we're not quite as confident or comfortable, in a public environment like that. So I think Bryce said something in a video a while ago where he said, like, don't worry about what other people around you are thinking. Because, if you're raising your hands in worship, like they're happy for you. They if they see that, if they note it, they're proud of you and they're celebrating that with you.
Yeah. I think my kind of just bouncing off that, my immediate thought when somebody goes to the stage is just prayer. And so I just start praying for them because obviously if they're going up there, there's something that they're dealing with. So I just try to just pray for them. That's not judgment, not a judgy prayer, nothing like that. It's just like, Lord, like I lift them up to you because you know what's going on.
It's like, oh, did you see Joe heading to the front of the altar? It looks like he needs prayer. No, nobody's doing that. Like we can laugh at that because it's ridiculous, that somebody would think that. And sometimes I go to the front of the altar, not even for myself, but I'm like interceding with God, saying, God, there's just somebody I know. They need to know you. Would you just, God, would you please work in their life? Would you plead in their life? And so that's a little bit of, kind of altar call, rationality and things like that. We're wrapping up in a little bit. We can't be here too long. But we've talked about some mistakes. We've talked about, things that you're praying for. And I just want to address this before we wrap up. There's probably somebody watching or listening to this that's going, why are we talking about camps at all? Like, why are we talking about D-Nows and weekend retreats? Because, we have church every Sunday. What's so special about these things? What is so unique about a D-Now or youth weekend, like we call it, whatever your church calls it? I kind of want to voice that for a second. Would you guys want to chime in on that? Like, why are we talking about? Why is it different? Is it different? It's not that it's better, but like, why are we talking about this uniquely?
It is. I mean, there's no words to describe it. It's just like this incredible thing, and like going up to the altar. You go up there, and it seems like such a minuscule thing, but when you're up there and you're on your knees and you're just praying, it just feels like there's a peace, and you can just feels different, and it feels better.
Yeah. So we know that there is something different about an event versus church on Sunday mornings, or even a youth group on Wednesday night. Len, you want like nudge us, or Joe, you want to chime in? Like, what is it that's different?
I don't want to like reiterate anything I've said already, but I did see somebody talk about online. He was kind of arguing like against camps, and he was saying like, oh, well, the only reason that people are experiencing this much is because like there are these teenagers, they're exhausted, like of course they're gonna be more emotional. But then somebody pointed out, like countering him, that it is like there is not really a situation like that in your life when for more than like a weekend or for like a week you are immersed in scripture and prayer and worship and around people that want to support you or want to learn from you. So I think it is a rare occasion where you get to like immerse yourself in something beyond just church, because it's not just a church worship. Then you go back to your cabin or back to your house and you have that night with people. So it is different. It's a little bit less uniform and you have more time.
Right. I think that's I mean, we do put a lot of planning and organization into this event, but at the end of the day, I think what is unique about these things is just that time.
Yeah.
And in Joshua, Joshua says to the people of Israel right before they go into the promised land, right before they cross over the Jordan, he says, "Hey, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among us." Yeah. Like what he said is, set yourselves apart, prepare yourselves, brace yourselves, maybe. Because tomorrow we're going to cross over the Jordan River. We're going to be in the promised land, and God's going to do some incredible things. And in so many ways, I think what is special about a youth weekend or a camp or a DNOW, whatever it is that we have consecrated that time. Maybe in your background, church background, or your denomination, you might say like you have anointed that time, you have set it apart. But ultimately, what we're saying is like you've set aside time, you set aside energy and focus. Money, like you've paid something to be there, probably. You've cleared your calendar. Like we let people keep their phones, honestly, because we want non-Christians to come here, and we don't want that to be a reason that somebody doesn't come. They're like, oh, I can't bring my phone, I'm not coming. Well, okay, bring your phone, but turn it off during services. But maybe you're saying, I'm turning my phone off, I'm leaving it home in an attempt to remove distractions, right? Yeah. So it's like when you set aside all that time, energy, and money and focus, and you remove those distractions, it's like it's no wonder that you hear from God more clearly. Yeah. And I think those things can happen on Sunday mornings. They do. Like God has kind of set Sunday morning as the day of worship for Christians in this day and age. But we're not saying that Sunday morning or Wednesday night church is bad by any means. Yeah. In fact, I think you can experience all of these same things on Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights. It's just when you remove all those distractions in a way that's hard to do on Sunday mornings, and you have more time in a way that you don't necessarily on Sunday mornings, you're going to hear from God more clearly. Yeah. And he's going to work on you a little bit longer.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's a question of like, quote, when can God move, but it's when you're most likely to be willing to receive it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want it to get confused for like God can only move when I set myself apart for like a weekend or a week.
No, I'm not. I don't think.
But yeah, it's like when you're most open for it. But
right. I think we need to do like adult camps. We need to do like grown up like family camps.
One of the things, Mr. Brian, it's kind of me and Bryce's mentor. Yeah. One of the things he said, because he came, he was just going to be a chaperone at camp, but then he kind of got put in that position of leading a group, which happened to be our group.
It was awesome.
He said, that was one of the best experiences I've ever had. Just being around kids and to have just this passion. And I think adults, when you grow up, when you graduate from college, really, because you can help out, you kind of lose that. You lose that kind of that group of worshiping God for just a set period of time.
And our days get so stinking busy, and we cram so much into them. And you go straight from your summer vacation into the craziness of the fall semester, and then you got Christmas and all those holidays that are really more tiring than restful, if we're honest with ourselves. And it's like we need a break. We need a set apart time. And that's why I think like church on Sunday mornings, like you need to have that routine so that there is a hour, 2 hour, maybe 3 hours if you go to that kind of church, then where you're saying, hey, this is my time to hear from God, to grow in my faith, and to worship him. So we've kind of got it now. We got into like theology and philosophy of these things, but ultimately what we're hoping is that these conversations we're having here spill over into the comment section, into your friend groups, group chats, and things like that, so that you can say, I want to steward this opportunity well. I want to, maybe you're coming to this youth weekend with us. Maybe your church is doing one in this summer, and you guys could think about some of these same things. How am I going to emotionally prepare, physically prepare, spiritually prepare, things like that. So we're about done. I told you all we started recording at 7 a.m. on a Sunday, so y'all got to go to life group in a minute. But we'll see some of you guys at church in a minute. We'll see some of you guys Wednesday at our youth group, at youth weekend this Friday. And if you're not part of our church, you don't connect with us here, then we hope this conversation is a blessing to you, and we'll see you on the next episode.